We're here today with Sherrod Brown, U.S. Senate candidate, and he's here at the Medina County Democratic Picnic, and we're here to ask him just a few questions. First of all, Sherrod, how does the pay-to-play system in Washington affect Ohioans in their daily lives?
We're seeing people, we're seeing what happens in Columbus, what happens in Washington has a direct impact on people's lives. For instance, Senator DeWine has taken $300,000 in oil company contributions and turns around, votes for an energy bill, and look what happens to gas prices. He received about $250,000 in campaign contributions from the pharmaceutical industry, votes for a Medicare bill written by the drug companies and the HMOs, and we see a bunch of seniors who are now in a drug plan that's way too confusing for all of us, and drug prices keep going up and up and up and up. The behavior of people in Washington, this whole pay-to-play system in Columbus and in Washington, take money out of people's pockets and ultimately are a betrayal of the middle class.
What plan do you have then to kind of ease the pain at the pump for Ohio citizens, in Medina County?
We ought to do a couple things short term. First, eliminate the 18-cent gas tax for a period of several months, at the same time paying for it by taking away the subsidy that the president gave the oil industry in the energy bill a couple of years ago. Second, Congress needs to enact an anti-price gouging legislation, not sort of a slap on the wrist to the oil companies, but when the CEO of ExxonMobil is making $18,000 an hour, when this company, just that company alone, made $8 billion profit in one quarter, $8 billion in a recent quarter, it's pretty clear there's price gouging. Long term, and then that will help us deal with prices. Long term, Ohio needs to be the Silicon Valley of alternative energy. We have the opportunity in this state, because of good agriculture, to grow more corn for ethanol and to actually refine the corn here, if you will, refine the ethanol, turn the ethanol into the corn into ethanol. And we're a major state, leading state in food processing. The cellulose content of the waste of that food processing can be turned into ethanol. We also have great manufacturing here, highly skilled workers that can do fuel cells and the components for wind power and the solar energy panels, and all that we can do that will both create jobs and stabilize energy prices.
Along that same lines, I believe reported on your website you had said that over 200,000 jobs have been lost in the last 5 years here in Ohio. How did this happen? And what do you have? What plan do you have to kind of turn that trend around if you were to become senator?
We have lost since January, since Mike DeWine and George Bush raised their right hands and took their oaths of office 5+ years ago. We've lost in Ohio 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Globalization is one thing, but when we passed job-killing trade agreements that cause these companies to outsource jobs, that give them incentives to, when Congress passed tax breaks for large corporations to outsource rather than tax incentives for small manufacturers, in Brunswick or in Medina or in Wadsworth or anywhere in this county, small companies, machine shops, tool and die makers, so that giving them incentives to manufacture in this country, it will begin to change direction. We also need the government needs to have a manufacturing policy so that we treat our manufacturers, particularly our small companies, with more respect and give them incentives to want to stay in this state, stay in this country, and manufacture here.
Along the lines of health care, how can we make health care more affordable?
Well, first, Congress needs to break its addiction to prescription drug campaign money. The drug companies gave literally $30 million over the last 5 or 6 years to President Bush and Republican candidates, and they get their way every time in Congress. Every time the drug industry has an issue on the House floor, they win. And it's clear that until we break that addiction, until members of Congress like Mike DeWine and others break their addiction to drug company money, we'll never get drug prices under control. That's the first part of it. We need to do better with a simpler Medicare prescription drug law, so seniors can go directly to Medicare to get their prescription drugs rather than having to go through this sort of labyrinth of 50 insurance companies to try to figure out what the best way to get coverage is.
Mm-hmm. Also on your website, you had mentioned that Democrats have a good shot at taking back the House and the Senate. You mentioned that Democrats need to be more aggressive. how Democrats in Washington, as well as the grassroots efforts, the volunteers, how can we be more aggressive in helping candidates such as yourself win in November?
People need to, particularly in more conservative areas like the city of Medina or in Westfield Center or people that are in more Lodi, places like that. People need to speak out because it's the people in office in this country have betrayed the middle class. They have turned over our government to special interests, and I think that we need to point that out. But we need to do two things: not just say what Republicans in Washington, like Mike DeWine, and what Republicans in Columbus, like Bob Taft, have done to our state. But we need to show here's what we're going to do instead. That's why when I'm critical of Mike DeWine on voting for the drug company's Medicare bill, here's what I'm going to do instead. And when I'm critical of what they've done on outsourcing jobs and these job-killing trade agreements, I always say, here's what we should do instead. And that's important always to make that contrast. They deserve to lose for what they've done to our state and our country, but we don't deserve to win unless we offer bold proposals, and that's what I'm doing.
And finally, what is important about your campaign to Medina County?
I think people in Medina, I loved representing all of Medina County for 10 years in Congress. In the last 3.5 years, I've represented only the northern tier of Medina County, sort of Brunswick, Highland School District, the northern part across the county. And I've worked hard to make government more responsible to people in Medina County, and I think that cuts across party lines. And I hope that as many Republicans and independents as have voted for me in the past will continue to support me, because I will continue to support them and make their government work better for them.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.